Thank you for joining us. Welcome to LumioseStation.
Hello everybody, TheOneIntegral back here with some more Pokémon DataDex for you all. As always, suggest more Pokémon in the comments below. Obviously, I want to know what you want to watch, so do that. Anyway, today we're looking at arguably one of, well, at least in my opinion, one of the most powerful Pokemon in Generation 6. I don't know, I don't want to say that too much, I'm not an expert on the, the meta game, but anyway, today we're looking at Greninja, so let's get started. So Greninja, the Ninja Pokemon, it's a Water Dark type and number 658 in the National Pokédex, and is also number 9 in the Kalos Pokédex, being the final evolution of Froakie, the Water type starter. So, Greninja is 4 foot 11 inches tall or 1.5 meters, and weighs 88.2 pounds or 40 kilograms. It's in the Water 1 group for breeding, and is a male 87.5% of the time and a female 12.5% of the time. So this is one of the sort of slightly harder ones to breed, because obviously to get a hidden ability Froakie, which is what we want, you have to obviously have a female to get a better chance at least, and obviously females are more rare, so generally it takes a bit longer to breed ones like this, but not too much longer. Anyway, as I mentioned already, it evolves from Froakie, and Froakie evolves to Frogadier at level 16, and then Frogadier evolves onto Greninja at level 36. And then if we take a quick look at Greninja's base stats, we can see here it has fairly low health points, defense, and special defense. It doesn't have very much bulk. But then if we look at special attack and speed, we can see they're pretty damn high. Special attack 103 and speed 122. So Greninja is a very fast and very sort of a high attacking Pokemon. Physical attack is not as much, so it's mainly a special attacker. So, first up, analysing Greninja's typing here, we can see it resists Fire, Water, Ghost, Ice, Dark and Steel types, and is weak to Grass, Fighting, Bug, Electric and Fairy types. It's also immune to Psychic types thanks to its Dark typing, and it takes neutral from, neutral damage from the rest of the types, Normal, Flying, Poison, Ground, Rock and Dragon. So as we can see, it has a lot of resistances generally, a lot of weaknesses, and the rest go in neutral. But the main thing with Greninja here is, thanks to its hidden ability, which we'll be looking at a bit later on, we really don't need to worry about it typing a whole lot, unless obviously we're using just the normal Greninja with the normal ability. Then again, that's hardly ever used, especially in the metagame. So really, typing isn't too much of an issue in this case, as we'll see in a second, but just looking at its Water Dark typing, we can see it does resist quite a few, but it's also weak to quite a few, and obviously it's immune to Psychic, which is good, I suppose. It allows you to switch in if you're predicting a Psychic attack. And yeah, so generally switching in is the only thing you need to look at its typing for. So obviously you really just want to be switching into Fire, the moves it resists at least, or is immune to. Really the weaknesses, you don't want to be switching into those, because they will probably take out Greninja in one thanks to its low defenses. So as I've been mentioning already, we have a look at the abilities now. Torrent is its basic ability, which is the same ability as all the Water type starter Pokemon, which powers up Water type moves when the Pokemon is in trouble. So when your health drops below a third, I think it is, it powers up Water type moves. This is helpful, I suppose, but generally not as helpful as its hidden ability, which is Protean, which changes the Pokemon's type to the type of move it's using. So for example, if we're Water Dark type, we just switched in, say we're going to use, Grass Knot. Now we use Grass Knot, and our type changes to Grass, and then we use the Grass Knot, and because our type has changed to the same type as the move, we get Stab. For those who don't know, Stab is, I would assume most of you do, same type attack bonus, so basically it powers up moves at the same type as the Pokemon that's using them. So obviously changing the Pokemon, so you always get Stab, whichever move you use, you always get Stab, and it allows you to change your typing to sort of defend yourself. So if you're up against a Grass type, you can obviously predict a Grass type move, so you could use, I don't know, a Flying type move or another Grass type move, and then your type will change to Flying or Grass, and then you will resist the move they come out with. Obviously, you can get double predicted there if they predict you using a Grass type move, they can go for an Ice Beam or something like that, but generally it's really quite good to do that. So Protean is definitely the better of the two abilities here, no doubt about it. So, if we quickly look at some of Greninja's highlighted moves, first up we have Spikes at level 28, which is, you wouldn't really expect Greninja to learn Spikes generally, but remember it's based on a ninja, so sort of, ninja stars, Spikes, not too much of a difference. Obviously Spikes are good for setting up hazards, not brilliant for Greninja obviously because it's not necessarily a bulky Pokemon, but they can be used to some extent. Then at level 49 it learns Extra Sensory. This is its sort of Psychic type attack, which is good, if you want to use a Psychic type attack on your Greninja, it's definitely one you want to be using. As you can see, or as you will see, all the type or majority of the moves we're using here are special moves, because as we know, Greninja has higher special attack than physical attack. Then level 60 it learns Hydro Pump, which is definitely its most powerful water type move. There are going to be some more options for water type moves in just a second when we look at that. Then TM13 is Ice Beam, which is going to be, if you want an ice move, you're going to use Ice Beam. TM55 here is Scald, which is another water type move. Now really, Hydro Pump has a chance to miss, as you know, and Scald has a chance to burn, and is generally more accurate than Hydro Pump. So you could go for the Scald rather than the Hydro Pump if you're looking for slightly less power and sort of just hoping to burn maybe. Or just, Hydro Pump isn't always needed to get a one-hit kill there. Scald can usually do the job quite well. Then TM86, as I mentioned already, is Grass Knot, which is a grass type move. It's actually special, so you might think it's physical because it's sort of a physical attack, but it's actually a special type move, and this is the move that sort of varies with the weight of the opponent. So obviously if you're up against a heavy opponent, you're going to be in good luck here, but obviously if it's a lighter opponent, you might be better off going for one of your other moves. So then onto our only physical move for this Pokemon here is TM89 U-Turn, which is a bug type move. This is very helpful because obviously Greninja is a very fast Pokemon, so if they send a Pokemon in, for example, I don't know, something that could easily go against you, for example, I don't know, an Aegislash, that might be good, I'm not sure. Say they send an Aegislash in, say you don't want to stay in with your Greninja. Personally I would, but say you don't want to. So you can U-turn out of there, because you're faster than the Aegislash, you're going to U-turn and get out of there before the Aegislash attacks you. So one, obviously it's not going to do a huge amount of damage because our physical attack is lower, and obviously Aegislash resists, but the example is just out, it's not relevant. So we use the U-turn, we can switch out, and then we can choose which Pokemon to come back in. So if it's an Aegislash, we can use something that's going to resist a ghost type move or a fighting type move or something like that. So it's really good. Obviously you can do the same with, you could just switch out at the start of the turn yourself anyway, but the U-turn is always good for getting some extra damage off, extra damage is always worth it. Every now and again, you don't want to, just switch out normally and then send your next Pokemon in and attack and get down to, 1 or 2% health on the Aegislash, because then you're going to feel really sucky you didn't have a U-turn and use that and stuff like that. You get what I'm saying there, guys. Then TM97, it learns Dark Pulse, which is obviously a Dark type move. This is going to be the main Dark type move you're using. It's a special move, which is good. So yeah, that's your general Dark type move. And then here we have the final option for a Water type move, HMO3 Surf. It's more powerful than Scald, I believe. Obviously it doesn't have the chance to burn, so it's really, whether you want, you could use one or the other. It's not a huge difference, but obviously the Scald with the burn could make a difference in some battles, but really it's just like an extra thing that would come in and you'd be like, oh yeah. Whereas the Surf is just sort of a basic thing. If you want something consistent, you can use a Surf, but if you're feeling lucky, you can go for the Scald. Obviously, you can just switch, well, you can't switch Surf out very easily, but TMs you can switch around very easily in Generation 5 and 6, as you'll know, so that's good. And the final move on this setup is Toxic Spikes, which is one of his X moves. You could sort of see this coming because obviously Spikes, and then Toxic Spikes is similar, but it's to do with poison, and obviously ninjas sometimes use poison, so I guess that's the theory behind that. So Toxic Spikes is the same as Spikes pretty much, but it poisons any Pokemon that comes in, so this could be helpful, especially if you're using Greninja right at the start of the game. Say you send Greninja out, and the opponent is using a Pokemon that's going to get owned by Greninja, they could predict you just go straight attacking, so then they're going to switch out, but then you could go for a Toxic Spikes first of all, and then switch your Greninja out afterwards, so that you got Toxic Spikes set up, so any Pokemon they send out is going to get hit by Toxic, which it could be a very good advantage, especially if they don't have a Rapid Spinner on their team, or later on in the game once the Rapid Spinner is gone, you could then use a Toxic Spikes and sort of use that to your advantage, I guess. So, moving on to the Wi-Fi battling setups, I talked a lot about the moves there, so this is really just going to be the setups and then how to use them generally. Now, because Greninja can get stabbed from any move, really, we're just free to use whatever move we want, really, or at least whatever move Greninja uses. So bear in mind, any of the moves I just listed, any attacking moves at least, could all be interchanged with the moves set here, but generally, you're going to want to keep, use a good majority of the moves I'm saying. Anyway, so the moveset here is Hydro Pump or Surf, or Scald alternatively, Dark Pulse, Ice Beam, and then U-Turn or Extra Sensory. The ability, as obviously, is Protean. Nature being Timid, which is going to boost our speed and lower our physical attack, because obviously we're not using physical attack. But yeah, we have U-Turn anyway, but Timid really, I would suggest Timid really. And then held item here is a Life Orb, because that's just going to help you to get the most power. This is really just a full-on attacking setup, just going all out, trying to take him out in one hit. As you can see, we've got no Spikes or Toxic Spikes here, for example, so this is really just a full-on attacking setup. EVs, as I mentioned, attacking setup, so maximum special attack, maximum speed, and you can put the rest on health points or attack. So, you know, health points if you just want a bit of bulk, or attack if you're planning to use U-turn. Obviously, if you've got extra sensory or another move, you don't need to do it, so you can just put them in health points. But obviously, if you are using U-turn, you might want that extra bit of, you know, just extra, you know, stat or two, extra point or two in attack there, just to get that slightly more damage. Obviously, the nature here is timid, which is going to lower your attack, but it's better than lowering one of your defenses or your speed, obviously your special attack, because Greninja is a fragile Pokemon as it is. You're really just looking to be as fast as you can, so timid is really the best nature here. You could go for a modest nature as well, but it's a toss-up really. You're gonna be doing more damage, but you could be slower and just more easily taken out by anything, so really it's just up to you which one you use. Life Orb, as I mentioned, is just for doing, you know, pure damage, so that's pretty much it there. Then the second setup here, we have Spikes or Toxic Spikes first up. Obviously it's looking more of a slightly more conservative setup, I guess. You know, you can use the Spikes at the start of the match, or Toxic Spikes, as I mentioned, just sort of, if the opponent's not expecting it, you can easily get Toxic Spikes set up there. Then Hydro Pump or Surf, or alternatively Scold again, and then we have Ice Beam or Dark Pulse. Again, you could just switch this out for extra sensory, but usually Ice Beam and Dark Pulse are the more useful moves, you know, over what types they cover, especially grass types, if you get switched in, etc. And then Grass Knot or U-turn is in the last slot. Grass Knot is good for taking out other water type Pokemon. U-turn is just good for, you know, if you get a Psychic type or whatever out, you can always switch out if you want to get out of the game, pretty much. So ability again is Protean. Nature here is timid again, because obviously U-turn is our only physical move and we want to be as fast as we can. And then the held item here is the Life Orb again, because that's really the most useful you know, item on Greninja. You really don't want to be using a Choice Scarf or a Choice Band or anything like that on Greninja, because of its, you know, it has a wide range of moves, so you don't want to, you know, switch in. You can use then an Ice Beam, you get your Choice Scarf so you're fast, or your Choice Band so you get higher attack, etc. And you hit them out in one, and then they send that Pokemon out that resists ice, so then you're screwed, so you have to take Greninja out. Whereas if you have a Life Orb, you still get that boost in power, obviously not speed, but still, you still get the boost in power, and then you can just switch moves when you send the next Pokemon out to deal with whatever comes out. So really, yeah, Choice Scarf, Choice Band isn't particularly good. You can try and run it, but on your own head be it, I guess. Eevee's again is maximum special attack, maximum speed, and this time the rest in defense, as we're looking at more of a slightly bulkier setup. not quite, because Greninja, as I mentioned, is just, you know, very, very weak defense wise. But yeah, defense is, you know, what we're putting in here. You could put in health points or special defense, but you know, we're just chosen defense here because, you know, it's the lowest of all the sort of the bulky stats, I guess. The health points, defense, special defense, it's only a 67, whereas health points and special defense are 72 and 71 respectively. So you're just using, you know, putting that extra in defense there to try and get out the same amount as the rest of them, so you have a general coverage rather than putting in, for example, special defense, so you have a fairly higher special defense, but then a very low defense stat, so anyone can come in with a, you know, a Brave Bird, priority Brave Bird with Talonflame and just pretty much take it out in one, or something similar to that. So yeah, that's really what you want to watch out for, especially, for example, one of the counters, I guess, is Talonflame, depending on how it switches in. For example, if you just used Grass Knot to take out a water type, they can switch their Talonflame in. If you think, yeah, I'm going to stay in and use a Surf or a Hydro Pump, they can go for the priority Brave Bird and pretty much take you out in one hit there. So you want to be careful about using this. Don't get too cocky with Greninja is my advice. You know, don't say, yeah, I can just take him out with more, you know, just keep going, because there are counters, you know, Ice Shard. It's not going to do a huge amount. You can't say it's not going to do a huge amount of damage to you, because it depends on what your type is. You've got Ice Shard, you've got Mark Punch, you've got, you know, all the priority moves, Aqua Jet. Really just depends what you used last time. So if there's a threat of a priority move, especially from a Talonflame or any other, you know, higher priority move, really just try and, you know, switch out. Be conservative with your Greninja. Use it to its full advantage, but be conservative. Don't get too carried away, I guess. So guys, that's going to be it for this episode of Pokemon DataDex. I hope you enjoyed it. As I said, remember to suggest your Pokemon in the comments below, and I'll try and get, I always look in the comments to choose what I'm doing next time, so, you know, I will get around to some more Pokemon eventually. I'm doing a good mix of Generation 6 and, you know, older Pokemon, and obviously when Pokemon that Pokebank finally comes out, who knows when that'll be. It might be out by this point, we might know when it's been out, because I'm recording this in advance, but when it comes out, I'll start, you know, focusing a bit more on the Pokebank Pokemon, and then next week I have Landorus coming out, so be sure to watch for that. but I'll look at some more Pokemon Bank Pokemon as and when Pokemon Bank arrives. So yeah, you guys will know how to use your Pokemon you haven't seen in X and Y yet in Wi-Fi battles. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I shall see you next time. Goodbye everyone.